Typical day, I would like to say there is a typical day.
The radios are always busy, the phones are always busy. The multitasking in the OCC is to the 10th power.
305, good afternoon. You are clear for the West Ladder and back to storage track 2, Charlie and Couple.
Pretty much what an air traffic controller is for airplanes is what we do for trains.
He's supposed to be on 21. I'm going to have him hold for his time out here at Gov Center.
Think you could cut in maybe around 5th and Sheridan?
We're 911 for bus, so it's just like you calling for police. Our operators call us for the help.
We have approximately 4 dispatchers in the room at once, and during that time, we deal with the whole city.
We're responsible for all our operators out on the road. Every bus that you see, we are their link, whether it be for safety, for service help, customer help.
635, I'm going to put you on ice for just a minute and I'll call you right back in a few to activate the train order. The number one reason for delays is safety. If we cannot safely get a train through an area, regardless of the reason, we won't move trains.
We're dealing with police, fire, medical, trying to stay out of their way so they can do their jobs efficiently. So there's a lot going on all at once when they just think their bus is late or we're not thinking to fill that service, but we really are.
It's been pretty tough since 2017. The unprecedented amount of snow, ice, protests, rain. It's been a little bit tough for transit, and we really appreciate the public's patience. I know the operators really endeavor to try to get people where they need to go, and it's our responsibility to try to get vehicles out there to provide that service.
Always wear your mask, and that's one of the most important things. Making trips has changed in that you really have to be conscious of your spacing around other people. You want to block any droplets that a person may be either actively exhaling or if they're just sneezing or coughing. Even talking, you can emit the virus. That's why it's important to have the mask over your nose and mouth. Well, some people think it's mainly coming out of the mouth. The nose is really one of your primary places where you're breathing in and out. Try and keep your distance away from others, within 3 to 6 feet away from individuals. One thing that I appreciate about the bus line is that the seats are marked where you should sit and not sit to help guide those decisions on having proper distancing. It's important during these times to use as many touchless options as possible. I do have my hop card, and I keep it on my ID badge, so it's always close to me. If you wash your hands at home, that's one thing, but it's really high-touch surfaces are one of those things that can transmit the virus. So when you get on the bus, it's important to use a hand sanitizer, particularly even if you're grabbing your hop pass and you're touching that hop reader, it's good to sanitize your hands after that. After you leave, one thing about the buses is there's hand sanitizer by the back doors, and you can always grab some hand sanitizer after the doors have opened. I try to actually sit by the open windows on the bus. Turbulent airflow and ventilation help get the virus away from you. It's Portland, so I tend to bundle up a little extra on the bus too, so, have your hat and gloves with you. With this virus, some people can be asymptomatic. They don't know they have it, you don't know they have it. So wearing a mask, maintaining your distance from others really helps add barriers between yourself and others who may be carrying the virus.
Typical day, I would like to say there is a typical day.
The radios are always busy, the phones are always busy. The multitasking in the OCC is to the 10th power.
305, good afternoon. You are clear for the West Ladder and back to storage track 2, Charlie and Couple.
Pretty much what an air traffic controller is for airplanes is what we do for trains.
He's supposed to be on 21. I'm going to have him hold for his time out here at Gov Center.
Think you could cut in maybe around 5th and Sheridan?
We're 911 for bus, so it's just like you calling for police. Our operators call us for the help.
We have approximately 4 dispatchers in the room at once, and during that time, we deal with the whole city.
We are responsible for all our operators out on the road. Every bus that you see, we are their link, whether it be for safety, for service help, customer help.
635, I'm going to put you on ice for just a minute and I'll call you right back in a few to activate the train order. The number one reason for delays is safety. If we cannot safely get a train through an area, regardless of the reason, we won't move trains.
We're dealing with police, fire, medical, trying to stay out of their way so they can do their jobs efficiently. So there's a lot going on all at once when they just think their bus is late or we're not thinking to fill that service, but we really are.
It's been pretty tough since 2017. The unprecedented amount of snow, ice, protests, rain. It's been a little bit tough for transit, and we really appreciate the public's patience. I know the operators really endeavor to try to get people where they need to go, and it's our responsibility to try to get vehicles out there to provide that service.
Always wear your mask, and that's one of the most important things. Making trips has changed in that you really have to be conscious of your spacing around other people. We want to block any droplets that a person may be either actively exhaling, or if they're just sneezing or coughing. Even talking, you can emit the virus. And that's why it's important to have the mask over your nose and mouth. Well, some people think it's mainly coming out of the mouth. The nose is really one of your primary places where you're breathing in and out. Try and keep your distance away from others, within 3 to 6 feet away from individuals. One thing that I appreciate about the bus line is that the seats are marked where you should sit and not sit, to help guide those decisions on having proper distancing. It's important during these times to use as many touchless options as possible. I do have my hop card, and I keep it on my ID badge, so it's always close to me. If you wash your hands at home, that's one thing, but it's really high-touch surfaces are one of those things that can transmit the virus. So when you get on the bus, it's important to use a hand sanitizer, particularly even if you're grabbing your hop pass and you're touching that hop reader. It's good to sanitize your hands after that. After you leave, one thing about the buses is there's hand sanitizer by the back doors, and you can always grab some hand sanitizer after the doors have opened. I try to actually sit by the open windows on the bus. Turbulent airflow and ventilation help get the virus away from you. It's Portland, so I tend to bundle up a little extra on the bus too, so, have your hat and gloves with you. With this virus, some people can be asymptomatic. They don't know they have it, you don't know they have it. So wearing a mask, maintaining your distance from others really helps add barriers between yourself and others who may be carrying the virus.
welcome to TriMet's listening session, where you'll get a chance to contribute to the hiring process for TriMet's new general manager. I'm Clay Thompson, TriMet Community Outreach Coordinator. I'll be helping facilitate tonight's listening session, and we'll begin in just a few minutes. We'll be taking comments via chat and also via live comments. And if you're following online and want to make a comment, please enter your written comment in the chat box on your screen. Look for a conversational bubble in the bottom right corner of your computer screen called Chat Box. Send your comment to me, Clay Thompson. If you want to raise your hand to speak, open the participants window next to the chat box and click on the hand icon. We'll unmute you so you can speak. If you're on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your keypad. We'll need to limit each person to 3 minutes so we can allow as many to participate as possible. If you have further comments, you can send them to comments@trimet.org. Again, that's comments@trimet.org. And if you're looking for more information, please visit trimet.org/GM. I also want to let everyone know that tonight's session will be recorded and we'll post the video on trimet.org/GM for everyone to view. And before we begin, here's a look at TriMet, the job awaiting our new general manager.
TriMet is looking for a new general manager. That person will be responsible for leading the strategic direction of Oregon's largest public transportation provider. We run bus, light rail, commuter rail, and paratransit service across a 533 square mile service district that spans Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties. We currently have 84 bus lines, 5 light rail lines, and 1 commuter rail line, as well as an on-demand door-to-door paratransit service, as we move people throughout the Portland metro region, which is now home to some 2 million people. TriMet has been part of our community for more than 50 years, and we celebrate our past with an eye toward our future. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, TriMet provided more than 96 million rides each year. Coming out of the pandemic, transit will help lead the region's economic recovery, with our operations and projects putting people to work and our service connecting people to jobs, training, and education. TriMet's next general manager will guide our agency of 3,300 employees strong in that role. Among the projects underway, our Division Transit project under construction will bring a new type of high-capacity bus service that will speed up transit between Gresham and downtown Portland. We're also moving forward on the planning of our Better Red project to extend and improve the Max Red Line between Hillsborough and the Portland International Airport. And our MAX system, the third oldest light rail system in the U.S., has reached a point of continuous improvement, with multiple projects a year to restore and upgrade equipment to keep trains moving and improve the customer experience. TriMet's test of the newest electric bus technology is shifting into higher gear, with more electric buses arriving right around the corner as we move to a clean energy bus fleet after adopting climate action goals that reduce our carbon emissions. Our new general manager also will face challenges as TriMet works to bring riders back to transit. Currently, ridership is down about 60% from pre-pandemic levels, and move the agency back to service expansion as finances allow. That person will also guide us in our effort with the community to reimagine public safety on transit, finding new opportunities to help people when a police response may not be necessary. The TriMet team looks forward to working alongside our new general manager as we serve our community in 2021 and beyond, providing convenient and reliable transit that is safe and welcoming for all.
Welcome back. I'm Lori Irish-Bauman. I'm a member of the TriMet Board of Directors. I'd like to recognize one of our newest board members, Laverne Lewis, who is joining us tonight. Welcome aboard, Laverne. Choosing the next general manager is the TriMet Board's most important duty. A board search committee comprised of me, Director Ozzie Gonzalez, and Director Linda Simmons are all working with a recruiting firm to coordinate the search for the top most qualified and diverse candidates to lead TriMet into the future. I, along with my fellow board members, and working with TriMet to engage with as many writers, community organizations, local leaders, and members of the public as we can. We want to gather feedback to help inform our search, and we want to hear as many voices as possible. In the coming months, the common themes that emerge from the outreach will help the search committee select 3 finalists. We're then going to appoint a community panel consisting of community, business, and thought leaders who will provide feedback on those top candidates. Our aim is that in June, the full TriMet board will interview and select a final candidate who will be presented to the public at a special board meeting on June 16th. Tonight, we want to have a conversation with you about the most important qualities and priorities that you believe are important for the person who will set and lead the strategic direction of TriMet. So let's get started. To allow as many people to speak as possible, we limit verbal comments to 3 minutes. Clay, who's our first commenter?
Well, Lori, our first comment is coming from our writer survey, and it reads, the size of the agency does matter. And if you can manage and lead on various levels and possess a dynamic understanding of this position and its complex nature across different agencies, municipalities, cultures, and lifestyles. Professionalism, safety, equality, and vision are main pillars of this career. They must be familiar with Portland, but really with all facets of transportation. This job requires a visionary with a wide understanding of how dynamic this position is. It's also how little things matter can make a huge difference. Those are the things that our new general manager will be facing, and I hope they're up to it. Let's see if there's anybody who has raised their hand. No new chats come in. So we can look at another one of our comments that have come in through our survey from citizen, one of our CBOs, or community-based organizations. And this one reads, the new general manager should have experience creating strong community partnerships and can help to create a shared vision for the region. And another one of our employees has said, the new general manager should have experience in implementing process improvement and improved information technology infrastructure. Let's see if anybody is looking to chat. I haven't got anything yet. And just a reminder, if you want to raise your hand to speak, we're happy to unmute you so that you can speak. Simply click on the hand icon next to the in the participants window, and you'll be able to get a request to actually unmute yourself so that you can speak. We're happy to hear from you. And so here's another one that has come from our writer survey. And this one says that we'd like the new general manager to care about rider safety at bus stops. Bus shelters should have lights repaired quickly. Seats should be available for seniors like me. People smoking near bus stops should be ticketed. There should be more regular cleaning of trash and broken glass at stops. These issues affect me every day. So this is some good rider feedback. And so let's take a look at a few others. If we have any other chat, we don't see anybody who is interested in chatting. So let's take a look and see what we have the rest of our writer survey. And this one says, and this one's about from our survey as well. And this is from an individual who has a lot of interest in the climate change and climate goals. And this one says the new GM has to be good at finding ways to innovate and accelerate TriMet's climate goals to net negative by 2029, not neutral by 2040. Climate researchers say we're almost over the cliff's edge and into chain reaction freefall. This is not an alarmist fringe theory. These are hard conclusions of peer-reviewed consensus in climate research. Last August 2020, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, found that the Earth's warming is taking place at an accelerated rate, equivalent to the IPCC's own set of worst-case predictions, i.e., it's getting bad much faster and worse than they had previously predicted. In short, they said, if public policies proposed seem to be neither extreme nor drastic, then they're likely not strong enough. And finding ways to make all TriMet bottom to top literally carbon negative by 2030 at the absolute latest is important for the new GM to focus on. Yes, this is a monumental undertaking. Let's give it our absolute best possible work. More and better we could have imagined or dared people were achievable. That's the level of crisis we face. Not tomorrow, next year, but today, here and now. The longer we drag our feet, the more cramming will be needed at the end. The less likely we'll succeed. This is no joking matter. TriMet's blog on climate and emissions is excellent and a top-notch piece, but it is roughly 20 years out of date with research. It will not just be unpleasant. We're facing a literal inability to grow any food by 2040. Thank you for reading. I value your hard and sometimes tedious work. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Let's take another look and see if there's any chats coming in. No raised hands, so let's take a look at another one of our survey responses. And this one is also from a community-based organization, and it reads, the new general manager should be focusing on accessibility to increase quality and frequency of service and decreases as buses go out of inner Portland. Equitable access to service is a great need. Free access services for youth should be provided. And here's another one from one of our community-based organizations. It says the new general manager should have an understanding of the gaps that have been identified by the community through recent regional planning efforts. It would be a shame to see someone new come in and repeat this work without building on the work that has already been done. And here's another one from one of our community-based organizations. And it reads, the new GM must be able to create a vision in partnership with community and then fight to make that vision a reality. We can address climate change, increase ridership, and make the system better all at the same time. Let's see if we have any chats coming through. No chats so far, so let's take a look at another one. This one is from a TriMet employee. And this one reads, pushing an on-time performance agenda on a system that interfaces so much with motor vehicle traffic and a system that has all train lines crossing a single bridge is unrealistic and encourages rail employees to cut corners and take risks. Goals and performance expectations should be tempered by the characteristics of our system and the challenges faced by frontline workers. And here is another one from one of our employees at TriMet. And this one reads, the new GM should visit the system, ride the system, view the system and how it operates from a rider's perspective. With all people moving to Portland this year, it is time to really make a difference, to encourage them to use TriMet and provide them a clean, quick, and easy commute. Right now, the working class would rather sit in their car in traffic for hours rather than use TriMet bus or train service. Good leadership can fix this. Look and learn to other agencies throughout the area. We have quite a few armchair quarterbacks, and they need to look at the shortcomings of mass transit in general. The employees see the issues out there daily. We need to hear more about exactly how this system can be improved. Let's take a look and see if we have any chats. If anybody does want to give us a message, you can enter your message into the chat window. Verbally, or rather in written. And then if you want to talk, we can open up your microphone. Simply raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon next to the participant's window, and we can go ahead and unmute you. So here is another comment that has come through on our survey. And this one reads, the new GM must realize that many lives depend on this system, and all the challenges discussed in this survey are important from equality to climate change, technology, and economy. The general manager must be a citizen that cares about others, but also with wide expertise on transit systems. If they don't know Portland very well, they'll have to learn a lot very fast about this city. Let's take a look at another one of our comments that's come through the survey. And this one reads, the general manager should take time to actually ride the system and meet with frontline employees to learn and see the day-to-day real-life events that occur on the system. This will help in deciding how to prioritize what needs attention most on the TriMet system. Let's see, we have no chats coming through, so let's take a look at one of our survey responses. And this one came through our Writers Club group. And this one says, the view matters. TriMet and the new general manager need to work with the city and communities to write grants and revitalize along the routes. Let TriMet be the desired method of transport with business development along the routes. Make it so convenient and nice. You'll have full seating. Don't put race-related slogans on the bus. You can't fit all of them, and you will indirectly be committing racism by excluding someone. Instead, build a culture within TriMet of inclusivity and equality. Make TriMet an example that is so bright it stands out as the leader in not only Portland, but the world. Lastly, the new GM and the CFO should go see the leading transit systems in the world, what the world are doing, including light rail, and bus. Take a look and see if we have any raised hands. Nothing so far. So let's take a look at one of our others that came through our survey. And this one reads, transit is critical both for extending learning and employment opportunities to underserved communities, which have been pushed out of the core of the city, and for halting climate destruction. TriMet needs to lead the way, promoting both equity and a livable future. This comment also came through our survey through Writers Club, and this one said, TriMet has a lot of potential, but it desperately needs vision. We need a comprehensive plan for transit like Seattle's ST3. $10 to $15 billion, 10 to 15 billion, a quarter of the ST3 would completely transform the Portland area. It's strategically invested in the following: a few stretches of subway downtown, $6 to $8 billion, 20 to 30 new miles of LRT or light rail trains, that would be 4 to 5 billion. Bus improvements throughout the city, that would be 2 billion. All right, let's see what we have. If we have any other hands raised, no chats coming through so far. So let's take a look at one of our other comments that came in through our survey. And it says, your new general manager has a lot ahead of them. It's a great system overall, but it struggles when we reach weather system extremes. I think there's a general feeling of danger on certain lines like the MAX late at night or other bus lines. Let's take a look at some of our other survey results and see if anybody else has logged into chat. Raised hands. So let's take a look at some of our other comments that have come in. And this one also came from one of our community-based organizations. And this one says, it is important to understand historical and persisting disparities in access and the importance of looking at data to identify where inequities exist, and to consider how priorities are determined with an equity lens that represent the diversity of our wider community in race, income, age, and abilities, and where TriMet can't serve, or partner with organizations like Ride Connection to assure that success. TriMet has a strong voice in standing behind those who are excluded, help to financially support the nonprofit community that is helping address these serious gaps. Some good comments through our survey. Let's see if there's anyone who's raised their hand. Again, if you want to speak, simply click in the participants window to find the hand icon and just click on the hand icon and we'll send you a message so you can unmute and speak. All right, let's take a look at another one. This is another one from our survey. And it says the new GM should recognize that TriMet is not just in the business of transit, but rather needs to lead in equitable mobility using smart and visionary technology to achieve visionary climate change outcomes. And this one also from our survey had a comment that came through that said, due to low frequency, it is cumbersome to use, referring to TriMet and the MAX system. For this size city, public transport should be the fastest mode to travel. No meandering routes, traffic priority measures for public transport, and less stops. I believe people are fully capable of walking some blocks. Further, infrastructure with essential businesses needs to be coupled with routes and stops, e.g. grocery shopping should be along the way. All right, some good comments have come through our survey, so let's take a look at one more. And this one says, I think the general managers should be focusing on a couple of things. Since now your riders are probably close to 80% of the underpaid, underclassed citizens, as most riders that have means are now working from home, you should not treat them like cattle. The Beaverton Transit Center had some drastic changes right before COVID. People couldn't be protected during rain or snow. Everyone had to pack into the same bus stop. That made me happy no longer to need your services. I loved riding the bus until the management seemed to forget who they were serving. People that can't miss a bus or don't have health or other means of assistance. They depend on you not to be greedy and to marginalize them. Let's take a look. No chats have come through. So here's another comment that came through our survey. And it said, one of the reasons I moved to Portland in 1997 was because I was so impressed with TriMet during a visit the previous year. But the system as a whole over these 2 decades, I'm talking pre-COVID, has definitely declined. The fares increased, the waiting times increased, and the distance walking to and from stops increased. And the old downtown bus shelters were way better than the ones that replaced them when the Transit Mall was redone and the Green Line introduced. Let's see, no chats coming through, so let's take a look at another one of our survey responses. And this one says that there have been years of terrible investments during serving communities that haven't asked for or desperately need public transit options, like the Orange Line, at the expense of communities that do need investment in additional services. The new general manager should be focusing on some important things here. We do not need more bad investments, particularly during a volatile time when commuting patterns may be changing permanently. Learn the lessons of Metro's failed transportation bill this past election cycle and live within Metro's existing budget rather than always asking constituents for more money. And here is another response that's come through our survey, and this one said that an important thing for the new general manager to remember is that the region relies on the system to be appealing to a wide range of riders in order to manage congestion and achieve environmental goals. Simply focusing on providing transit to customers who do not have other options will not result in success or meet the region's goals. Transit must be an appealing choice, even to those who have other options. Otherwise, we fail. How to do that in post-COVID environment will be a big challenge for your new general manager. Let's take a look and see if we have any raised hands or chats. Nothing new. So let's take a look at one of our survey responses that came through most recently. And this one says, understand the situation from the rider's point of view. All too often, the GM, board members, executives, and other managers and planners seem out of touch and out of step with the needs of those who ride the system. Comments and particularly suggestions need to be considered more seriously. Just because one doesn't have a degree in transit planning doesn't mean a concern isn't valid and doesn't need more consideration than a nice idea, but. The ridership is the foundation, and along with operators who often are not listened to either, is on the front lines as both see what is happening on a daily basis, which administrators and executives don't. I've made numerous suggestions, many of which, when I mention them to others, gets a thumbs up. However, the feedback received from TriMet at times tends to feel more like excuses for why something is not done. If this were still a privately operated system, I could understand it, but this is a public service paid for by taxpayers, both locally and nationally. And at times, it seems not to be responsive as responsive as it should be. If I were general manager, I'd appoint several members to the board who were regular system riders who would have just as much to say as the others. Let's take a look and see if we have any raised hands. Nothing so far, and no chat. So let's take a look at another one of our survey responses. And this one says, we have to put effort into capital projects which mostly serve the status quo of cars first transportation. But we need to focus on moving people with vastly increased fareless service and adaptive technology like change in motion electric trolley buses, which can grow electrified service 10 times as fast as all battery buses with a fraction of the infrastructure costs of light rail. The new general manager should not expect to simply run TriMet like a business, but rather needs to be leading a political and service transition into a more public transit agency. All right, take a look at some other chats, raised hands. I don't see anything yet, so let's take a look at another one of our survey responses. And this one comes from a TriMet employee. And this one says, as a rider and operator, I found the things that work throughout the system are improvements aimed at making the system more efficient. Whether it be PBOT's Rose Lane project, jump lights, or stop consolidation, time saved makes traveling on the system much easier. We should continue to work with our partners to continue making transit more equitable and reliable, and consider other options like using larger buses on some routes, upgrading station and stop amenities, especially in high traffic areas, allowing all door boarding on the busiest routes, and other things, many of which can be seen in the Division Transit Project. Providing safe storage for bikes near platforms and stops, and working with our partners to provide safe biking routes to those locations could help grow ridership, reduce boarding times, and provides options for those living without a car, whether by choice or by circumstance. Let's take a look and see if we have any chats or raised hands. Nothing so far. Again, if you do want to raise your hand, just go to the participant window and open and look at for the hand icon. We're happy to unmute you so you can speak. Now let's take a look here at another comment that has come through. And this one says, TriMet's dedication to excellent customer service is what makes TriMet great. Driver training staff is amazing. At times when I have been part of the organization is mainly due to their good work. What would really help to bump our service up into the next category of awesome is if TriMet worked with the union to improve driver schedules and increase the availability of shifts that do not leave operators completely exhausted. This would result in friendlier drivers, fewer medical problems, and a happier customer base. Let's take a look at a couple of other comments. Let's see if anybody has raised their hands. Nobody yet. So let's take a look at some other feedback we got. This one through Facebook. And this one says, I believe that it is imperative that the new general manager should have an intricate knowledge of the city layout and be familiar with existing bus routes. This is why I feel it is necessary that any prospect should either be native to the city or be a longtime resident with experience riding TriMet. And here's another one that has come through our survey by Facebook. And it says, let's see the whole comment here. It says, TriMet is a great system, serving a great city that has felt a little rudderless the last few years. All riders want more buses running more frequently in more areas of the region. I could care less about capital projects or whether money is wasted on refurbishing garages. As a rider, I want better frequency and quick buses on more lines. Because if a bus is coming every 5 minutes, I can care less about how the bus shelter looks. All right, let's see. Take another look for any raised hands. Haven't seen anything yet, so let's take a look at another comment that has come in, and this one also through Facebook. And this one says, TriMet has a dedicated group of people working for its system. Their role is not easy. Hopefully, the new general manager will understand and respect this. They also, in turn, are very fortunate to have what they have. I have lost much in my own life, and they have a good life if one were to compare. Good luck to the new general manager, and best wishes. Right, and this is another one that's come through Facebook, and this comment regarding a new general manager and what they should focus on says we have a very different culture here in Portland, according to people who are from elsewhere. We are open to new ideas to improve the system. However, Portland has a quirkiness to it that must be considered and respected. Let's see if there's anybody who raised their hands. No chats yet. So let's take a look at another one of our survey questions or survey responses. And this one reads, I love our public transit system, and I've seen several times as a new line is added that the neighborhood improves. Let's make sure it improves for the people already in that neighborhood too. And we have to have a better way to enforce paid fares. I have literally sat in cars with people in crisis who, amongst many others, were using drugs, not wearing clothing, hauling trash, and harassing and disturbing peaceful riders. This is something the new general manager should focus on to a great extent. Let's see if there are any chat questions that come through. Nothing yet. So let's take a look at some of our other responses. And this one was something that came through our survey. This one says the new general manager should have experience managing a budget of this size in any field and knowing when to invest in projects showing promise and when to eliminate projects whose time has come to sunset. And another one reads, TriMet needs a director who understands and can deliver a big city solution to our transportation needs. We need to be thinking big and comparing our technologies and systems to European or Asian models. By comparison, our system is Tommy the Tank Engine era thinking. Let's take a look at some others here that we can find. We have a lot of good comments. I see nothing on chat yet, so we can take a look at other ones that we have received. And this one says, and this is what came through our survey as well, and it says the system works well if you're going downtown and you live relatively close in, say 3 to 5 miles from downtown Portland. But this does not meet today's markets. One, downtown is no longer the only core. If you work on the central east side or in Hillsborough, there's not much cross-region service. The forced transfer at Rose Quarter means you cannot get from North Portland to Central East Side without transferring. Number two, the housing shortage means people live farther and farther out, and low-income folks are already living pretty far out. The bus system has 0 express limited service. The bus is not attractive at all for people in East Portland or other neighborhoods far from downtown. And see, again, if you want to send a chat, you can do a written chat by simply entering it into the chat box and hit enter, and we're happy to read your response here on this program. And another survey response about our new general manager and qualities and things I should focus on says, TriMet uses more diesel than any agency in Oregon, which contributes to Multnomah County being one of the very worst in diesel pollution. This disproportionately affects people of color and under-sourced communities, contributing to much worse health outcomes. We need this transition in leadership to begin a new era of accountability for environmental health. We have no time to lose. Thank you for the ability to provide input. We're getting some good responses here. So let's take a look at another one. And this one says, after living in 2 other U.S. cities before Portland, I can confidently say that TriMet is the best public transit system I have used. I define, quote, best in terms of technologically advanced and easy to use things like applications, wayfinding maps, website information, bus stop QR codes, fare payments via credit card on app, etc. However, one thing the general manager should know is that TriMet absolutely needs to expand service areas and increase frequency via bus rapid transit. What's the point of a technologically advanced, easy-to-use transit system if it doesn't make sense for me to use it, or if I geographically cannot use it? Also, continue to expand low-income fares. Do not eliminate fares for low-income folks, and keep options for those who do not have smartphone technology and or are unbanked. Let's take a look if we have any other chat comments. I don't see anything so far. So let's take a look at what we have, other survey responses. And this one came through our Writers Club survey, and it says, compared to other public transit systems of similar size, TriMet does an excellent job of providing safe, affordable transportation in the core of the district as exceptionally professional, courteous, and helpful operators. TriMet should be proud of its performance and build on those successes to make sure equitable access and more frequent services are balanced against capital constraints and the imperative of moving towards greener energy sources. Ridership will take care of itself if reliable. Frequent service is the norm. Okay. And I don't see any other chats coming through or requests for a chat. So let's take a look at one of our survey responses. And this one says, currently TriMet fails in communication to the public. There is no reliable outage notification for a route. The notification for weather events usually comes 3 hours after everything is already closed. Notifications of a lost trip do not exist. As a rider of TriMet, we want a reliable system that tells us where the next bus is, or if there is a delay or outage, so we can replan our routes and not have to wait around with an out-of-date information causing delays of hours. Please have the new general manager focus on this. Okay, so we have another chat, so nothing come through. So here's another response from our survey. And this one says, for Portlanders, TriMet is a proud part of our city's innovative past, from the 1970s through the 2000s. Currently, poor upkeeps of MAX and bus stops and stations reflects badly on TriMet and on Portland. Also, remember TriMet means mobility for the poor and homeless throughout Portland. Mobility is a basic human right, not a privilege. In addition, TriMet buses and MAX lines must continuously improve as safe, clean, efficient transportation solutions for commuters in order to reduce street and highway congestion. How TriMet responds to the challenge of increasing numbers of people working from home will require innovation and collaboration with city and metro leaders. Creation of desirable destination hubs with mixed-use development, housing, retail, and additional services must be an important part of TriMet's portfolio of innovation. All right, let's take a look and see if we have any raised hands. No chats yet, so let's take a look at one of our survey responses. And this one said, the general managers, the new GMs that should understand that the foundation of transit operations should be the riders and operators priority one. GMs should understand, listen, and value the riders and the bus and train operators. The bus and train operators should be better invested. They are unhappy. They don't feel that they are listened to or their personal safety is a concern and are treated very badly by supervisors and management. We overhear them complain all the time at layovers and road reliefs. If they are respected and shown their importance to TriMet by managers, they would be far less grumpy and much more friendly. Less accidents probably too. It's commonly known to us riders that recent general managers and upper management are out of touch with the riders and operators on the ground. We see and hear about per transit projects in the news. Time and money is wasted on micromanaged fluff projects that cater to pre-up transit to make it prettier, keeping up appearances to impress federal backers and foreign dignitaries. This takes away from the basics of what us local riders want. Riders care only about three things: less wait times, safety, and not being overcrowded. You give them that and they will ride. And what about finally getting articulated buses back to help overcrowding, besides what you plan for the Division Transit project? We know TriMet has been scared to buy articulated buses after their mistake to buy those Hungarian nightmares in 1980. It's 2021 now. Blame the manufacturer, not the proven reliable technology used in all major cities since the 1970s. All that space should help with social distancing during COVID if we have articulated buses on routes. Please find a general manager that listens and values riders and its ground zero employees. Okay, let's take a look and see if we have any raised hands, and no chats or raised hands yet. So let's take a look at some more other comments that have come through. And this one says, some of their survey response, and it says, I have voted for every single Max extension except for the last one, and used to take Max semi-frequently. Not anymore. Portland City Council refuses to address homelessness, crime, graffiti, drug use, and panhandling in the city core. I rarely visit them. I saw no point in expanding Max service downtown. My job, which is located near Montgomery Park, is looking for a new home. Downtown would be perfect, but they refuse to even consider it due to its decline. If you want improved ridership on TriMet, you're going to have to advocate for a clean, safe downtown. As long as downtown is dying, so will ridership. Let's take a look and see if we have any raised hands or chats. Nothing new, so let's take a look at one of our rider comments that came through our survey. And this one says, I want to accept what TriMet is, a crucial lifeline for this community's most vulnerable. I've taken TriMet all my life. It was the most valuable when I was a teen. No options to get home safe. Because it was there for me, I'm always a staunch supporter. You aren't going to entice some rich snob who has never needed TriMet, but you'll get the support of me and my partner who didn't want to ride downtown to his job. And we want a service that serves low-income and houseless community members, as well as being a great resource for us. I've never felt safer with a transit cop, by the way, but felt safe with a sense of community on the bus of people who are using a service and glad to be using it. Also, more resources and bus lines in our outer, lower-income communities, please. Okay, let's take a look and see if we have chats. Okay, and I do see one that has come through, and this one from Jay Adams. And this one says, thanks for the opportunity to participate in this event. It's a very progressive process that you are following and should be a model for leadership searches around the country. I have to leave now, but wish you the best in the search for your next leader. You've clearly heard some great feedback from your riders. Take care. Thank you, Jay. All right. So let's take a look at some of our other responses. And this one came through our Writers Club survey. And this one says, the TriMet system is really not broken, but only wounded, so to speak. Expand on all that's good, but hidden because of COVID crazy times and the cultural knee-jerk reactions of politicians. Also, as you design buses and Max for the future, please pay better attention to those of us seniors and disabled. An example of the new Max Car Priority are for Max Car Priority are for a wheelchair that won't fit in a larger power chair at all. So they sit in the aisle and people are horrible to them, thinking that they choose to be in the way. Or on the newer buses, the yellow poles in the way make it very hard for them to fit into their seats. So people sit sideways into the aisle and nobody can get through. Major design flaws that should have been foreseen with insight on how people ride transit, especially when it's crowded. Take a look and see if we have any other chats. I don't see anything yet. So let's take a look and see what else we have for comments that have come through. Let's see. We have quite a bit of comments that we have read so far. Let's take a look at some of the newer ones. And this one, let's see. This one reads, and this is from a Writers Club survey. It says, the new general manager should focus on a couple of things. One of TriMet's biggest strengths is the broad range of riders, including many business commuters. One of the biggest challenges is the west side connections, getting from main hubs and lines into more remote areas. Most people are not willing to walk half a mile or more along roads with no sidewalks. Please partner with local jurisdictions to improve walking and rolling connections. And let's see, take a look at another. And this one actually came from one of our surveys that came through Writers Club. And it says, people are unpredictable. They board the bus after a difficult day and sometimes feel they have a right to take their frustrations out on other riders or the driver. It's important that this new general manager bring de-escalation type training to their employees to learn how to de-escalate volatile or hostile situations. Train the drivers with methods to learn how to keep control of their bus at any difficult situations. Some good feedback so far. So let's take a look and see what else we have from our writer survey. Let's see, nobody's raised their hands yet. So again, from our writer survey, this one says, Portland drivers generally show a great esprit de corps and are pleasant in dealing with the public. Do not let the situation deteriorate to where we have surly, grumpy drivers, as is the case in so many other cities. Okay. And this one is also through our survey. And this one says the new general manager should be awarded something very important. And that is that Portland's TriMet system is very good, but it is not great. It's typically Portland's emphasis is not locking out the needy, but not enforcing fair payment, which means that many lines are overrun by the mentally ill or antisocial, causing a safety problem. There are also several city neighborhoods, such as St. John's, which it's usually difficult to get downtown in less than 45 minutes, which makes driving far more important and practical for its residents. This is something your new general manager should focus on in the future and make that one of their priorities for improving connections and making the system faster. And let's see. We've got some other good comments that have come through. And this one says, the new general manager is a very important position, and I wanted to point out that the public transit needs to be clean, safe, beautiful, reliable, and welcoming. Many of us, people of color and disabilities, deserve a system that is not equal, but instead equitable and superior to other systems. Some of us rely on public transit services for all our transportation needs. Why not make the experience wonderful? What do we have to lose? There's some good feedback. Let's see if we have any other chats. Don't see anything so far. And so this is another survey response. This one coming through Riders Club. And it says, riding the routes as though he is a rider on all forms of transit and all routes. And it's referring to the new general manager. Pay attention to the length of time he must wait for a ride. Think about weekend trips such as Sunday travel. Is it easier to take his car? Is there frequent buses going from shopping areas to residential? The most important thing is the length of time that any rider has to wait for a bus, especially on a rainy day. Okay, and so this one also comes through our surveys and says that the new general manager should stop spending millions of dollars on police and private security. Stop using TriMet to organize transport of groups of police or arrested protesters. Commit to an immediate 100% reduction in emissions from all TriMet buses, fleet vehicles, and everything. We are decades behind on tackling climate change. We cannot afford to wait additional years to act boldly. TriMet's current climate goals are unacceptably weak and delayed, and TriMet's claiming that it won't be possible to switch out their heavy-duty construction vehicles for electric versions is false. Volvo makes a line of electric construction vehicles under the name Volvo Construction Equipment, or Volvo CE. Make all fares free for everyone. Use TriMet buses as warming stations for the homeless during snowstorms when the bus lines are canceled due to unsafe road conditions. Let's see if there's any other anybody to raise their hands. I think so far. So let's take a look and see what we have for other responses.
Clay, can you give instructions on how to raise your hand? I see one of our participants.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, if you want to raise your hand, go to the participants window, open that, and you should see a hand icon. Click on that hand icon. We'll send you a link so that you can unmute yourself. And did you find it?
No, but I think I just unmuted. Am I here?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was in earlier and I had some connection problems, so I hope this works. I just wrote something up I want to read. So, okay. My name is Anya Mataram. I've been a bus operator since November 2018, so just over 2 years. Before this job, I served my community as a bartender, a recreational specialist for people with disabilities, and as a caseworker for Department of Human Services, issuing food and cash benefits to families in need. I also worked in Arizona in the same capacity and realized that Oregon really has a lot more to offer its community as far as family resources go, including addiction help and job training. I'm thankful to live in this state and serve my community to the best of my ability. What I would like to see in a general manager is someone who shares that same compassion for Portland and its neighboring municipalities. As a bus operator, I need a general manager who will make resources available to me to best serve my community. I would like to see the buses continue to be cleaned post-COVID like they are being right now. I would also like to see the hand sanitizer remain on the buses and MAX trains. Things as simple as making bus stops more visible at night. I heard of another town that has spinning reflectors on the bus stop poles that the intending passenger can spin at night to make them more visible when the bus approaches. And also, Portland has become a lot more angry, aggressive, and desperate in this last year. I can feel it. I think we can all feel it. I've watched this past year as my coworkers, the ones who I've admired since day one, as always showing up to work and always having a smile on their faces. I've watched them break down. I've talked to them about their time loss, something that's been new to them this year. We just hit 20 homicides in Portland for 2021. I drove right by an active shooting a few weeks ago, and I was myself assaulted in December while driving the bus. I'm falling apart and struggling to keep a smile on my face, and I've started taking antidepressants and have sought therapy to continue with this job that I do really love doing. This year has just been really tough. The advice I've been giving is just to try not to care, just drive, don't engage with people, which is hard to do when the thing I love about this job is engaging with the public. More security would be fantastic. I had 2 security personnel on my bus right a while ago, and it was nice to have that peace of mind and security while driving after dark. Currently, there are only 2 folks who are doing this and traveling together, so I think we need more of them. And also, one last thing, we're still out of contract as union employees, which tells me that right now, upper management does not consider the frontline employees as a priority. It's disconcerting and has shattered our morale as a whole. Add that to the pandemic, navigating through protests and evacuating wildfires, and also our assault rate being higher than ever. We are falling apart at the seams, myself and so many of my coworkers. So to finish this off, I just want a general manager who's willing to listen to us. We know the people, we know the roads. A great majority of us have the best interest of the community at heart. So let us help and listen to us. And for goodness sake, give us a fair contract and the credit that we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you for participating. I appreciate hearing from you very much.
Thanks.
And we appreciate the operators so much.
Yeah, it's a fun job. It's just been tough this year.
It's been a tough year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute myself again. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Great feedback. Thank you very much. And so let's take a look at some of our other survey responses. I don't see any other chats coming through, so let's see what we have in our survey responses. And this one says, the new general manager, they need to not be afraid to make decisions, like getting rid of West or to improve other services. They need to not cater to the city of Portland's every whim. TriMet serves way more than Portland, and the Central Business District is not coming back anytime soon. Groups like the Portland Business Alliance should be holding way less important influence in TriMet's world. And we have another one from our writer survey. And this one says the TriMet general manager and TriMet in general needs to, one, look at underground MAX in the city center to relieve bottlenecks in the system and add capacity to the system, reduce stress on above ground streets. And number 2, TriMet needs to add express trains to MAX. 3, TriMet needs to create dense, multi-story, multi-use station communities at and on top of its existing stations. See examples in Germany, Netherlands, or England, where this is the norm. Okay, let's see what else we have here for feedback on our survey. And this one says the new general manager should have an understanding of how transit and new mobility options can work for the future of the system. They need to future-proof and understand and take advantage of emerging technology in transport. There are many companies out there who are looking at and increasing technology for autonomous buses. That is one piece of technology that could be a wave of the future. Okay, let's take a look and see what else we have here. And this one comes from one of our employees. And this one says, bringing a more cohesive cooperation between each division's leadership and valuing those TriMet employees who have institutional knowledge instead of disregarding them and disposing of them. In this way, we can learn from past mistakes as we make decisions for the future. Also, provide training for all employees that are required to use technology and expected to understand new software and applications without actual training. Ensure leadership is not biased towards providing opportunities to some staff and not all staff equally. Let's take a look at another one survey. Let's see if anybody has their hand raised. Nobody so far. So let's take a look at another online response. And this one says, the new general manager should be focused on encouraging diversity in leadership positions within TriMet, allowing more opportunities for minorities and women, provide the necessary tools for the workforce to increase knowledge, and working with the union and improving employee morale. Let's take a look at another one from our online survey. Let's see, anybody has their hand raised. So let's take a look at this one. This one's regarding electrification of our system. And this one says the new general manager should be focused on electrifying the entire transportation system. I would say achieving TriMet's climate action goals, but those seem to be very weak. We need to be 100% electric by 2030. All right, so let's take a look at any other chat questions that have come through. Nothing so far, so let's take a look at another survey response that has come through. And this one says the new general manager should be working effectively and fairly with all employees, especially the frontline workers. Establish a fair and workable contract with the represented workers, and continue to keep an open lines of communication with all employees in a fair and unbiased manner. Get rid of union busting management and abolish the service improvement program, which is our message system for complaints and so forth throughout TriMet. Okay, let's take a look at this. Oh, another response has come through our ridership, the rider survey. And this one says the new general manager should have big picture skills, understanding all the problems that need to be addressed and building a team of experts to handle each situation. It is important to keep in mind that all of the major issues listed impact each other. For example, increasing the safety and cleanliness will help increase ridership. Some riders take public transit because it helps with climate action. There are many problems and goals. It's important to have a person in charge who understands the situation and can make a plan that addresses all of the situations quickly, effectively, and in an economically responsible manner. All right, let's see if we have any raised hands. Nothing new, so let's take a look at some of our other survey responses. Okay, and this one comes from our survey, and this one says the new general manager's focus should be equity. Service should be able to reach more people and cost less to them. We have many people who are underserved in this community, especially those who have been pushed to the outer suburbs via gentrification. This is something that needs to be addressed, and they have increased new bus lines and more service in some outlying areas, but not far enough out. I'm thinking of Forest Grove, Outer Hillsborough, North Hillsborough, and new developing areas in the Cooper Mountain area. And this one says we need to expand TriMet into a comprehensive alternative transportation network For instance, integrating bicycling with buses and MACs. The TriMet area would benefit from reduced private car use. Also, please integrate better into neighboring systems, especially C-Tran and Columbia County Service. Let's see what else we have out here. Some other responses. Let's take a look at another survey response. And this one says the new general manager should find ways to enforce riding rules, such as full face coverings. I don't think it is right that I am told to get off and catch the next bus when I inform customer service that no one or more people on the bus have their masks under their chins. People who aren't following the face covering mandate are the ones who should have to get off the bus. All right, so let's take a look and see if we have any other responses or questions, any raised hands. Nothing so far. So let's take a look at this survey response. And this one says, keeping bus stops and buses, MAX trains clean, and that means free of garbage. Advertise litter-free Portland. Target the most dirty bus stops in Portland, for example, bus stops along Burnside and along Belmont. The bus stops that I have seen so far since moving to Portland have been quite untidy, and you need a fair system that is more equitable for everybody. A hop system can sometimes be very difficult to manage and also very difficult for those who are unbanked. Let's take a look at another online survey response. And this one says, the new TriMet general manager should be making sure that TriMet's history of social injustice towards the Black community and people of color is repaired. The TriMet policing system is abolished. We need a community of carers, not aggressive cops on our public buses. So let's take a look and see no raised hands in the chat. So take a look at another writer response through our survey. And this one says the new general manager should help TriMet in moving towards a fairless system to meet the needs of the most marginalized and removing the criminality of riding the bus when it's the rider's only choice. This happens frequently. As a rider, I see this almost every day. Before COVID came into effect, when it was affecting ridership, I saw many people who were removed from the system, who had no other way to get around, and were simply removed because they simply could not afford to pay. That is something that has been helped by the new low-income fares, but it needs to improve as well. Please have your general manager focus on these topics. Okay, let's take a look. No other chats have come through or questions. Let's take a look at our writer response survey. And this one is a response to our Writers Club, and it says, racial equality. It should be the focus of the new general manager. Also, they should be looking at more north-south bus and MAX lines. Think of North Portland and Vanport, why it's so easy to travel east and west versus north and south on public transit in Portland. This is something the new general manager needs to focus on almost entirely, because this is how people get around. Frequency is good. We like to have more buses. We want to have them clean, and we want to have them go where we want them to go. Take a look at another one. This is regarding budget. And let's see, as you know, chat questions have come through. So this is a Writers Club survey response. And this one says the new general manager should look at one thing very important, that is the stewardship of the public's money. Stop spending millions of dollars on police and private security. Stop using TriMet to organize transport of groups of police. I think this is one that we have read once already. So when that showed up in our survey several times, actually. It's like they've taken the survey many times. So let's take a look here and see what else we have. Okay. All right, and this is also one that came through our Writers Club survey. And it says, TriMet has become bogged down in political nonsense. Rid the Department of Political Correctness and get back to the business of moving as many people as possible, safely and as quickly as possible. Be mindful that Oregon has a tendency to build for the past instead of for the future. Work with city planners to zone major employment centers and housing around rapid transit facilities. We have wet weather a lot in this area. Plan new transit centers covered with plenty of covered parking, along with food and drink available. I've gone to many locations, including the Gateway Transit Center. You have some vendors who are serving food, but it's very uncommon in most Portland areas and at your transit centers. You need more options. Okay, let's take a look at another rider survey, a response. And this one says, TriMet is a crucial part of our city and how we get places. We should work on making sure that no one is unable to afford transit. And it would be nice if I didn't have to add an hour to take the bus or max compared to driving, such as going from Kenton to the airport or from Powellhurst, which are generally 20 to 30 minutes to drive versus 90 to 120 minutes to take transit. This is mainly because everything goes radially through downtown with no tangible routes around them. If there were less than a three-time penalty, I'd probably renew my one-year pass and ride more constantly. Okay, and this is another survey response that's come through Riders Club. And it says, TriMet is the greatest, but sometimes I think that TriMet employees don't get much in the way of orientation or training, or perhaps what they do get is inconsistent or optional. Or maybe it's us riders that don't know what drivers and other staff are or aren't supposed to be doing. For example, some bus drivers help the disabled and seating, and others ignore them. And aren't they supposed to help, or are they not supposed to help? Another example, the security seems to ignore people smoking and littering. Are they supposed to confront or not confront? These are things that I think your new general manager should resolve, and TriMet should be more consistent in its application. Okay, this one is also a response to our survey. And it says, TriMet need not have a budget crisis due to COVID-19. End the $25 million police contract. Place trust in your community to keep each other safe. Deterrence isn't worth that much money. It is invasive to all of your riders who simply do not trust Portland's police. I have never seen an officer help a person on a TriMet bus or train. I have only seen officers beat people and fine them. And that seems to be their role in the TriMet system, leveling violence and fees toward poor, vulnerable people. Instead of deterrence, cut the cops and put resources into lobbying for a fairless system. The community supports a fairless TriMet. Okay, here is another one through our survey. Take a look and see if anybody's raised their hand. So nobody yet. TriMet serves a lot of people who don't work traditional 9-to-5 jobs. We need better last mile service and more frequent service on weekends, evenings, and early mornings. Also, enforcement of the mask mandate during the COVID-19 pandemic is essential. Can't complain about reduced ridership while allowing unmasked riders on buses and trains. I personally won't set foot back on public transportation until I'm vaccinated, because every time I see a TriMet bus roll by, there are unmasked riders. All right, let's see if anybody has raised their hands. Nothing new. So let's take a look at one of our survey responses that comes from Riders Club. And this one says, TriMet works amazing when it works. As soon as there is an emergency of any kind, blockage, service disruptions, etc., it is nearly impossible to get information, figure out a new route, or know when and where or how a shuttle is going to operate, or any needed information about the situation. This is a long-standing issue with TriMet for at least the last 10 years and is yet to be addressed at all. Please have the new general manager address this first before anything else. Okay, so let's take a look at another one of our rider survey responses. And this one says, TriMet's a long way from perfect for a variety of reasons, but it's also a long way from bad. To hear some tell it, TriMet can do no right. These people are loud, abrasive, and wrong. Ignore them and concentrate on reducing wait and travel times to the extent that is feasible, by whatever means necessary. Build and maintain buses, trains, and any other modes that will work. Build and maintain restrooms, and maybe refreshment stands or grocery stores nearby at all major stops. The easier and more comfortable it is to ride, the more people will get on board. All right, let's take a look and see if we have anybody raise their hands or chat that's come through. So nothing new. Let's take a look at another one of our rider survey responses. And this one's about Washington County. And this one says, Washington County is very underserved by transit, with large portions of southeast Hillsborough and southwest Tigard underserved by transit. The routes that are already running are very frequent and aren't very frequent and lack proper amenities such as seats and shelters. There needs to be significant improvements done here in Washington County. Let's take a look at another writer response to our survey. And this one says, we need actual progressive leadership at TriMet. This should be coming from a general manager that genuinely understands the experiences of people who use our public transit system, but are not treated fairly by it. The new GM should be working to decrease criminalization around fair enforcement, and in fact should be leading an agenda to make Portland's public transit system equitable, welcoming, and fearless. Let's take a look at another one. And this one is also through our survey. And this one says, the new general manager should realize that we need rail from Vancouver to Salem. TriMet should work more closely with regional governments to plan regional transportation projects to pair rapid bus, increase change services, and connecting to the last mile to ensure all projects aren't done in a silo, to eliminate vehicle trips or increase capacity on one small section of road in a single jurisdiction. Think larger. And this one also is related to Vancouver. And this one says, we need to have Max go into Vancouver. We'll never build enough bridges and highways to satisfy the Washingtonians, or those of us who have to compete for space and on the road. Max needs to be underground in the downtown area, and the stops need to be improved to supply ample safety and shelter from the weather for the ridership. Some good responses coming through our survey. Let's take a look and see if we have any chats or anything, raised hands. I see nothing there. Let's just take a look at another one here. Okay, this one is also coming through our Writers Club survey. And this one says, your bus drivers, in particular TriMet Lyft, that's our Lyft paratransit service, have to endure a lot of unique and, in my opinion, unfair challenges, like not being able to use the restroom when they need to, for a pretty small pay. Be aware that some of the drivers have a much harder time than others. I also think that TriMet's Lyft passengers also can suffer from super long delays. Okay, let's take a look and see what else we have here for responses. And this one says, the new general manager should conduct a candid analysis of current ridership. There are more homeless and individuals with severe mental illness riding the system. The next general manager has to address the safety issues this situation has created for riders and operators. Previous general managers took a soft approach or no approach at all. It is time to create a system that is safe and equitable for all riders. Okay, let's take a look. Some good comments through our survey. Let's see what else we've got here. Let's see, this one says, if you make rules, they should be enforced. Enter in the front, exit in the back. Stay behind the 6-foot mark of the driver. If I pay, you should also pay. Bus drivers need to be educated as to what type of mask to wear. If you have a beard, you should not be wearing an N95. Every day, my number 8 bus driver has one on. Lastly, not sure where the rule came from for the 6 foot apart versus 3 foot apart. I guess that's just one that you folks made up so that you can move more riders. Yeah, let's take a look and see what else we have out here. Okay, so here's a response that comes from also from the Beaverton area. And it says, I've ridden mass transit downtown from Beaverton for 6 years now. People are often packed shoulder to shoulder, coughing and sneezing during rush hour. Sometimes it is so packed we can't pick people up at Sunset Station. There often isn't parking at Milliken Way, which means there isn't parking at any transit lot to downtown from there. I watched a man being robbed during rush hour, laying on the floor of the Max while people were shoulder to shoulder around him, ignoring the fact that he was yelling for help, while the robber stood over him, took his wallet, and jumped off the train. One morning during rush hour, I watched a man screaming on the train, disembarked at Pioneer Place, turn around and pull a switchblade out, attempt to get back on the train, screaming. I ran for my life down the aisle. Many times I have jumped off a train at a stop and ran to another car because someone on the train was screaming and threatening to kill people. I know TriMet does their best. They need more security on the trains, cleaner trains, and promotion of a wear a mask if you have a cold or feel sick to prevent others from getting ill, not just during COVID times. Sanitizing stations would be a great idea. Also, there has been several times during hot weather that water has poured from the vents at the top of the Max train, getting passengers very wet. The commute should not be this difficult. Please have your general manager focus on these topics. Right. So let's take a look here. We have a few minutes left, and so we can read a few more comments. Nothing new coming through chat, no raised hands. So let's take a look and see what we're looking at for responses regarding our general manager and what they should focus on. And this one says, speed and convenience is important to commuters. When TriMet makes the commute harder, such as cutting down on buses coming straight into downtown, people switch to driving. While the environment is very important, spending more time with your family will trump that. All right, let's take a look and see what we have here for other responses. And this one comes from our writer survey. And this one says, TriMet is being used as a safety net by many social service networks to provide shelter and safety for people experiencing homelessness and mental health issues. Other writers are trying to get to work, appointments, or go about the tasks of daily living. Safety is a paramount concern. When I can't even get to work, etc., without fearing for my safety from someone who is a danger to themselves or others, that is a huge problem. When more people start riding again, the problem will only increase exponentially. Okay, let's take a look at, see if we have any raised hands. Nothing there, so let's take a look and see what else we have in our responses. And this one is coming through our survey, of course, and this one says, the stops need improving for disabled who have to pay extra for Lyft, as again our Lyft Bear Transit service. Better disabled accommodations and making sure they are safe, do not get pushed out of their seats is very important. Check more on those whom are not helping aging and disabled patrons, like those who are caregivers and helpers, etc. They need to be given priority. Many are eligible to sit with their clients and also ticket those who are not caregivers. They have no purpose of sitting in designated spots, and they should be following the signs and designated signs on the system. Also, extend the hours of the buses and extend and add bus routes, along with putting shelters with above heating systems in the roof of the shelters during the winter and cooling systems during the summer. Lots of light and security cameras are also very important. We greatly appreciate the rehabilitated stations that you have worked on East Burnside. And really go down hard on the no smoking rules. All TriMet buses and MAX stops should be smoke-free. And that is one of our responses. I think there's another one that I wanted to read from one of our survey responses, and it says, the new TriMet General Manager should focus on the fact that it serves two distinct populations, one that uses it to commute only to work, and the other that uses it only for means of transport. TriMet is amazing at meeting the needs of the first and rather poor at meeting the needs of the latter. So let's see. Okay, and this one comes from our survey as well, and this is some of the important things that our general manager should be focusing on. And this person says ridership will come back organically after addressing many other challenges. Public transit has many benefits, but you need to make it safe and clean. It is currently perceived as a subpar service where people utilize only when they have to, and that needs to change. Choice riders will come back when you actually make that choice pleasant. Safe and sanitary conditions are the biggest challenges, but this may be due to a larger issue with the general public more so than with TriMet. This will be a big task facing your new general manager. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, so let's take a look and see if we have anybody who has raised their hands or chats. See nothing new, so let's take a look at one of our other responses through the survey. And this one says, make TriMet an entirely fareless system. Public transit should be free. Sever all ties to and positions for armed security and police. Criminalization of poor, homeless, and other individuals needs to end now. Let's see if we have any raised hands. Don't see any raised hands right now, so let's take a look and see what we have for other survey responses. And this one says, advancing a policy that would lead to the introduction of a fareless public transit system in Portland would be wonderful. There are other markets in the United States who have done this and done it successfully. Please look to them for leadership and have your general manager focus on the successes of other transit systems of your size and larger. Let's take a look at raised hands. Let's take a look at a couple other things that have come through. And this one's from one of our employees, and it says management must develop standards of expectations that, when not met, need to have formal steps for improvement for frontline employees. This should be done through organization with management and a very strong relationship with the new general manager. New general manager should be focused on how the union treats employees and making sure they have an equitable contract in the future. And let's see, we have about 4 minutes left. So let's take a look and see what else we have. Some of our writer surveys. Get some good stuff in here. And let's see, this one says the new general manager should be focused primarily on leadership, not only within themselves, but from their direct reports. COVID has triggered many and difficult times within transit systems nationwide and worldwide. This is something that should be focused on from your new general manager. And they need to look at it very carefully about the history of transit in other markets and in this market especially. There's a lot of wonderful things that can be accomplished in the future. And we can look at them right now if the general manager decides to focus on the most important things. And those important things are riders and the people who serve them. Okay. So this will be a couple of our last comments that we can read this evening before we end our program. And this is a comment that has come through from one of our employees. And it says, frontline workers or unions are the bulk of the employed staff. This is something that our new general manager should look at very closely. Morale is somewhat low right now, and we feel that there should be more effort towards safety and keeping the operators and the riders in a safe environment. All right, let's take a look and see what else we have here. Okay, this one also is for folks who are using our Lyft service. And this one says that all TriMet stops need to be improved for the disabled, and we shouldn't have to pay extra for paratransit service. We need to have better disabled accommodations and making sure they are safe and they do not get pushed out of their seats. This has become a common problem, especially in poor weather conditions when the floors of the bus and the train are sometimes get muddy and slippery and very wet. The new general manager should be looking very closely at how the Citizens for Accessible Transportation, or CAT, are on their responses to various changes throughout the system. This group is very important and should be listened to more closely by your new general manager. Let's see, I think this will be our last one, Lori, before I hand it over to you for your closing remarks. And this one says, I've ridden transit in Portland for many years now. My kids have also used it to go to school and are greatly appreciative of the student pass that is provided, and for additional service, the doors of the schools open at the end of the day. This is something I would like to have continued. The school pass program has been threatened in the past, and the new general manager should look very closely at how that program can continue to help and maybe even expand it for Portland Public Schools and other school systems within your district. Thank you. All right, Lori, that's our last one. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for your final closing remarks.
Thank you to everyone for joining us. I'll close by saying that we do want to hear from all voices, and your feedback is an important part of our search process. You can find more information at our website, trimet.org/GM. You can take the General Manager Hiring Survey, which is available in 6 languages, and you can see recordings of our other listening sessions. If you had more feedback, please email us at comments@trimet.org, online at trimet.org/feedback, or join us for the public forum at our next monthly board meeting. Details are posted at trimet.org/GM. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.